Hi, this is Eden Sunshine, founder of the Level 7 system. I'd like to welcome you back to this series on implementing Level 7 within your organization. Today's video is entitled The Principle of Conveying Information. What exactly is the principle of conveying information? Well, in a nutshell, it's about communication. And the fact is that in most businesses, the system or the process of communicating is one of the most overlooked areas within an organization. And yet, communication is happening all over the place. We have broken communication down within this principle of conveying information into 4 types of communication. There's essentially downward communication. That's the communication of goals and expectations and vision and direction from leadership down through the organization. And when you consider the importance of making sure that everyone in your organization understands the goals and the direction of the organization, they understand specifically what they're accountable for as it relates to goals for their position, and that the ever-increasing importance of them understanding that, you begin to recognize how important it is to have good communication or downward communication within a business. In best case scenarios, what we've seen is a business have maybe an annual meeting that says, these are our goals for the business. It happens around the 1st or 2nd week of January, maybe the end of December. And they say, hey, everybody, this is what our goals are for this year. And then there's never a conversation about it again. And then people are frustrated that people don't understand what the goals are of the organization. So the principle of conveying information makes sure that we have quality downward communication. It also ensures that the flow of information coming up through the business from employees and through management is being heard and received. Because the fact is, great information comes and ideas and insights about what's happening within the organization can come from employees within the organization. Employees need to feel like they're heard. People need to feel like they're being heard, that their opinion counts, that they're being valued as far as their contribution to the business. So this principle of conveying information addresses this issue of what we call upward communication and make sure there are quality upward communication systems. And by the way, it's more than just putting a suggestion box up in the back of a room and say, hey, if you have any ideas, put it in the box. We also address the issue of internal communication. And the fact is, in our studies of communication within a business, we have found internal communication is one of the most prevalent distractors of productivity within a business. What is internal communication? Well, it's basically a flow of information from employee to employee or manager to a manager or manager to employee or something like that. It's how you file information. It's how you transfer ideas and thoughts back and forth or communicate internally. We find that in some businesses, the amount of interruptions that take place in an organization because of poorly developed internal communication systems is unbelievable. I'll give you a quick example. We were working with a company a number of years ago that their managers felt like they were overwhelmed addressing questions coming from people throughout the company through email. And they weren't able to get their management-oriented work completed. So we did a very quick study to assess how much email was being communicated throughout the entire business. And we found in many cases there were 60 to 80 emails per day that managers were addressing that were coming from people within the organization internally. And in many cases, it was redundant communication that didn't need to be communicated over and over and over again. Well, in this particular case, this company implemented some systems to streamline that internal communication and dramatically raised productivity of their managers and other people simply by addressing this topic of internal communication. And finally, there's external communication, which addresses how are we communicating with our prospects? How are we communicating with our clients and the people we do business with? And interestingly, a lot of businesses don't consider that either. Years ago, I remember receiving an email from a client that was, their primary customers were males. It was a male-dominated industry. And one of their employees actually sent me an email that had purple and pink backgrounds with flowers. It had an icon in the bottom of what looked like a Daisy Duke type character, cartoon character sitting on a rock, and I thought this seemed very, very inappropriate when it came to communicating the message of what that business was about. And it was simply overlooked by the business because they hadn't been considering how they're communicating within that organization. So as you go through this process of discussing and looking at the principle of conveying information, essentially what you're asking is this: how are we doing at communicating? Are we productive in our communication? Are we threading effective communication within our organization? Is communication not only being sent, but is it being received? Because communication is a two-way street, that when you are having a conversation with someone, the simple question of are you receiving the information that I'm giving you becomes very, very critical, just as the person who's receiving information is making sure that they're getting clarity. So the principle of conveying information addresses all these informations, highly, highly important process within an organization, this idea of communication. So as you address these issues, be asking yourself the question, how well are we communicating? Are our messages being received, and are they being delivered effectively? This has been Eden Sunshine. Thanks for joining me again in this series.